Greetings Exiles, and welcome to the Fortescue Institute for Inspired Learning. I'm CodRayZeal, and joining me today as always are Sir Reginald Amadeus Fortescue III and Frank. And today we're going to be talking about Dyadus. So what exactly is Dyadus? Well, Dyadus is a unique Infernal Axe which has properties that at face value don't seem that interesting, but it also has two special mechanics. The first is that it does different things depending on whether it's in your main hand or in your offhand. In your offhand, it deals cold damage and it chills enemies for 1 second on hit. This is regardless of how much cold damage you do. So it's a great way to chill if you're not dealing enough cold damage. If it's in your main hand, it deals fire damage and gives you a chance to ignite. In addition to this, the most important feature of the Dyadus Infernal Axe is the fact that enemies that are chilled by you take 100% increased burning damage. So how does Dyadus work, specifically the increased burning damage taken function? Well, first of all, the increased burning damage taken functions very much like vulnerability or shock, in that it's a multiplier on your increased and more multipliers. So it's just that extra multiplier to really ramp up that burning damage. On top of that, the increased burning damage taken effect is actually attached to the chill that you create, which means that if we proliferate that chill, everything that's touched by the proliferation will also be affected by the increased burning damage taken. However, this also means that since the chills from ground effects never actually apply the chill, that they won't grant the damage bonus associated with Dyadus, which means that we have to chill ourselves one way or the other. So before we get started on how to use the axe in a set of scenarios, let's have a look at how chill works. First of all, chill slows the target's animation speed, affecting everything the target does. So movement, attacks, casting, being stunned, everything. In addition to that, chill is based on how much cold damage you deal to a target by default, and it has a base duration of 2 seconds. It's also worth noting that chill can slow by up to 30% if you deal enough cold damage, which would roughly be 10% of the enemy's life at base value. For the purposes of Dyadus, it's important to note that a minimum of 1% chill slow needs to take effect for the chill to actually be applied and the damage bonus to exist. So we need to deal roughly 0.33% of the enemy's life to get that 2 second chill and the burn damage. We can also use chill effectiveness to lower that amount, and we can also use chill duration to boost the duration of the chills. Now, skill effect duration doesn't affect chill, so you would have to focus on elemental ailment duration, or just chill duration. It's also worth noting that no matter how much effectiveness you get, you cannot slow by more than 30%. So now let's go over some of the ways we can apply the chill, starting with an attack using a different weapon in the main hand and Dyadus in the offhand. In this example, I'm using Cyclone on a Righteous Fire character to apply the chill. The Cyclone is linked with Unbound Ailments, Elemental Proliferation, and Blood Magic. As you can see, my basic damage isn't all that impressive, and when I hit with Leap Slam, proccing my Elemental Equilibrium, it's slightly better. But then when I start cycloning, since I'm chilling the target, I'm dealing double damage, since this build doesn't use vulnerability. So as you can see, whenever I'm cycloning, I'm dealing a lot more damage to him than when I'm not cycloning. And this is the reason I use the Dyadus in the offhand, as that chill is unconditional. It'll chill anything that can be chilled, regardless of their life. Now let's look at applying the chill with a cold spell. So this time I have my summoner with 2 wicker men, and as you can see, the burning damage isn't all that impressive without the cold spell being used. But now I use a cold spell, in this case Frostbolt, linked with elemental proliferation and Iron Will, to chill targets. And as you can see, as soon as I hit with the chill, everything burns a lot faster. In this setup I'm using 2 Dyadus axes, since I don't need to attack and thus cannot proc elemental equilibrium from the attack and ruin my damage. The drawback of this method, of course, is that you have to deal 0.33% of the enemy's life by default. Now finally, let's look at a way to dual wield our Dyadus axes and attack without upsetting elemental equilibrium. It is worth noting, however, that you would need to proc elemental equilibrium with a different skill. So in order to achieve this, what we do is we link our attack, in this case Cyclone, with Brutality. And what Brutality does is it makes it so that the skill can only deal physical damage, meaning it's safe from messing with our elemental equilibrium. Of course, in this scenario we would likely need to use something like Orb of Storms to proc elemental equilibrium. If you're tanky enough, you can use a skill like Cyclone, as seen in this video. However, if you're not tanky enough, you could also use Frost Blades for its long range. Or even Spectral Throw. So where to from here? Well, I have 3 different builds planned. The first one was the Righteous Fire, which you saw early on in the video. After that, I have a Summoner planned, which was seen a little bit later in the video. And I'm also going to do some cold igniting with Hrimburn and probably Frostbolt. So that is it. From us here at the Fortescue Institute of Inspired Learning, we'd like to thank you for watching, and good luck and stay juicy.
I'm Sir Reginald Amadeus Fortescue III, and I approve this message.
If you enjoyed the video, please do hit that like button, and if you have some friends who would like to benefit from this content, then share this video with them. And lastly, if you really like the style of content on this channel, do hit that subscribe button.